Welcome to Caching in the Northwest. This is the official podcast of GeoWoodstock 18 right here in the great Pacific Northwest. Each week, we're going to talk about caches and cachers from here and all around the globe. So while you're estimating the value of your geocoin collection, we'll be caching in the Northwest.
Well, of course, that must mean it's time to bring in our quarantined chimp. How about that? Some say he's been known to activate geocoins before he gets to them. And others say he's so bland he makes Pat Boone look dangerous. All we know is he's called Land Monkey.
Hey.
Do you even know who Pat Boone is?
I don't know, but
I'll give you a clue. He's white and nerdy.
Just thinking you called me bland. That's not nice. Anyways, hey, I am happy to be here this evening with my good friends and all of our good friends in the chat, and everybody's hanging out and having an awesome day and an awesome evening, and we're taking the internet down because it's 9 p.m.
On a Thursday.
Running gags. You got to love them. You know what else you got to love? You got to love patrons.
Cheese. Oh, Pete, yes, that's even better.
And cheese, especially Wemsleydale.
Yes.
But, we love our patrons, and we want to throw out a quick reminder that we appreciate the support of our patrons who help to keep this podcast coming each and every weekend. Thanks to Land Sharks, our corporate Denali level sponsor. Land Sharks is open and I don't have the right notes in front of me, but they're open again. So you can come into their store for business to practice your social distancing and place your orders online, and you can pick them up there. And I'll make sure that my notes are correct by the end of the show.
You know what, though? It doesn't matter the reason. You just need to go to the store.
Yes.
Indeed.
All right.
And another thing you need to do is send us a glow. We need your glow. Because it's time. Right now, it's the exact moment that we glow. What, you may ask, is a glow? Because this may be your first podcast you've listened to ever. Or maybe it's the first podcast you listened to us ever. Who knows? It could very well be your last. We don't know.
You never know.
Nonetheless, the glow is the geocaching log of the week. You see how that spells glow? You take the first letter of each word. Dormore came up with that, and
it's an acronym.
Whether you read it, whether you wrote it, we want to hear about it because great logs simply make geocaching better. Send an email or a field recording to feedback@cachingnw.com. You can call in to 253-693-TFTC or use the voicemail tool on the website and show us how you glow.
Well, I like to glow by, reading the glow, because I can do that. And this week's was a log by Peach and Pete. Kind of makes me a little sad to think right there, but we've lost Pete. Those of you that don't know, we lost Pete recently. So this is in their memory, and Peach is still raring to go, but our hearts go out to Peach for the loss of Pete. This cache has a French name, and, I am not French, nor do I speak French. Never had any French training. So let's just throw it out there. I know that you kind of just slur it all out there and stuff. It's something like laissez-les bon temps rouler or something along those lines. So if you're fluent in French, forgive me. I did look it up earlier. It translates to let the good times roll. That's the English saying. If you're Rick Ocasek, it's let the good times roll, or something along those lines.
That's pretty close, yeah.
It's GC8HX71, and it was a log from this last January. The log reads, started out to just get this cache to satisfy our need for a puzzle today, and the weather was drizzly in Kent. No snow since mid-morning, and it was melting and 40 degrees. But as we got closer to Tacoma, it was not raining, and for that, we were grateful. Parked, made the find, signed the log, and replaced as found. Peach loved this one, especially because she was born and raised in Louisiana, albeit from North Louisiana, but been to New Orleans many times, and she took Pete there for the first time a day after they were married back in 1996, so his daughter could fly home from the New Orleans airport, MSY, since it was much cheaper from there rather than Monroe. After reading some of the first logs, Peach realized what she had to do to solve this puzzle and got busy today while it snowed outside. Unlike our friend, Scouting Forever, Peach had trouble with the answer to E. Finally got the checker to sing after that correction, and then after correcting an addition function instead of the corrected subtraction function. So pay attention to what you do. We're giving you a favorite point since Peach has such a connection to Louisiana and loved your cache in its honor. Only thing better would have been a container large enough to hold some swag, such as beads, doubloons, etc. Went on to pick up a few more caches since it was not raining, and they were all by this CO, so it was a Hiking Guide PNW caching day. Thanks for the smiley earned on this nice puzzle cache and those that follow. Aïe, les bons temps indeed.
Nicely done.
If you say it fast enough, it's all just good.
Yeah, it's just kind of you kind of swallow the syllables and mumble a lot. That's my very insulting interpretation of French pronunciation.
And just drop the last letter typically.
Yeah, so my apologies to French speakers everywhere.
Well, there you go. I'm sure they will gratefully accept your apologies.
No,
Right.
they will just scorn you.
All right.
right.
Well, tonight we're going to talk about a fun question, and is geocaching safe? And there's all kinds of permutations to that we'll discuss as we go through. But if you've got thoughts about what we're talking about during the show, and you want to make sure that our chat lackey, who is busily working away in the background, grabs your comment and drops it into the show notes for us. No, he says he is not busily working in the background. Okay, you guys got to get him busy. All right. So
Bury the chat lackey and hashtags.
there you go. Hashtag safe. That's the safe word tonight.
Okay.
All right. And, if you've got something that maybe isn't related to the topic, but you'd love to chat about it and hear us riff on it and whatever else, hashtag FTAS, as always, FTAS, which is for the after show.
You better believe it. And you want to test out that the safe word works before you need it.
Seems like really good advice.
Probably.
That's my advice to you this evening.
I don't want to know how you know that.
No, it's just good practice.
Okay.
In other news,
In other news, did you hear about the new Adventure Labs new deadline?
Ooh.
If your adventure is not yet live, you have until October 31st, 2020 to set your adventure to public. Just flip that little switch, it goes public. We are committed to the health and safety of the geocaching community and recognize that some creators may not be comfortable with setting up an adventure at this time. But wait, there's more. Do you want a second adventure credit? If you complete your adventure early by August 31st, 2020, you have a chance to be randomly selected to create a second adventure. Geocaching HQ will randomly select at least 300 creators with geographic distribution to receive a second Adventure Lab credit. How cool is that?
that's pretty cool. Very good. Very good. All right. So we were talking earlier about Adventure Labs.
I know somebody's excited.
And GSM Times 2 seems to be on board in general with that approach. That's hilarious.
That.
Yeah. And I think it's fantastic. I think maybe we'll talk about this idea a little bit later, but Adventure Labs are definitely a safe way to play geolocation games these days. But yeah, I think it's awesome that they're doing it. I'm enjoying some of the quality of the Adventure Labs that are being put out recently in our area, which is fantastic. IHAM says he shares it, hashtag safe. It really depends on who you're caching with as to the safety of geocaching.
True.
Keats is posing a controversial question right out of the gate, asking if lamppost skirt caches should be outlawed. So,
Not necessarily. I believe all caches have their place.
yeah, I hear you. I hear you there.
You know, what happens if you're traveling through a town and you need a Washington town. You need a map page. You need this geocache for a specific reason. There's nothing wrong with a lamppost skirt.
Yeah.
Now, if that's all you're doing and you're looking for a more adventurous one, now then we can have a discussion. But that's on you, Mr. Casher.
There you go.
Sure.
So to get us started here, Google and Quora.com instruct us that regarding the safety of geocaching, they say some of the risks may be exacerbated because geocachers are often focused on their GPS or smartphone and the cache hunt and may not be paying enough attention to their surroundings. Never seen that happen before. I have a few episodes of that. Anyways, that all said, geocaching is about as safe as most outdoor activities and safer than many. That's the official answer from Google, but
so maybe,
yeah.
What they're coming back with.
Sure.
It depends. That's what we use on this podcast all the time. Is it safe? It depends.
It depends.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not the most coordinated fellow, and there are times where, yes, I've been a little too focused on a device in my hand. Usually it just comes up with maybe a twisted ankle, or oops, I've fallen down very gracefully. I'll just rest here and see if the cache is in this spot. It doesn't seem to be. Let me get up and look again. But last summer, I believe it was, I was in not quite in the Tri-Cities. We were coming back from the Tri-Cities, and I stopped, I can't remember the name of the town, to get a cache, and I wasn't paying attention to where I was walking. And I just brushed against a cactus.
Ooh.
Of course, I was wearing sandals because, well, I've been driving. So, why do I need real shoes and socks or even long pants? And there you go. And so, yeah, I learned that, they don't hurt too much going in.
Yeah.
They hurt more coming out.
They sure do. Yeah.
Ouch.
So, that was one of my more memorable ones. Now, Wits End could tell you another.
Mean the bloated, festering head of my first victim?
When you thought you might have to dial 911?
Yeah, I did have that thought cross my mind.
Now, is it just from distraction, or is it just
an
accident?
Klutzy.
That one we were. If you don't know that cache, it's in a very swampy, marshy region, and we were there in February. It was still cold and wet and mucky around, and there was a rather large fallen tree that we had to clamber over, and he was mid crossing, I guess you should say, and one of the branches of said tree was sticking upright because, well, tree down, branches upright, and put a little too much weight on it, and it gave way, and he fell over. Unfortunately, the jagged, broken stump of said branch impaled him in the midsection, and thankfully was mostly just an abrasion, shall we say. It wasn't a true puncture, but I wasn't sure at first.
Man.
Yeah. And I just kind of in my mind thought about, if I have to call 911, tell them that we're out looking for the bloated, festering head of my first victim, and a friend of mine has a puncture wound, it probably wasn't going to go well if I started the conversation that way.
Yeah, let us just transfer you to the police for a moment. Oh, wow. That's
so, you have to take safety measures when I'm with you.
That seems like a good idea.
Yeah. Didn't you post a picture of that injury on the cache page?
I believe I did. It was quite colorful.
So there you go. There's some
Wow.
after show content we might bring up, and we probably won't.
Yeah, probably not. Well, yeah, definitely. We talk about the 3 Ts. We've had Adventure Smart on a couple of times, and I'm sure we'll have Sandra Riches back again in the future. But definitely having a certain level of preparedness and planning ahead is going to make geocaching a little safer. There's all kinds of different considerations of safety of the game. But whether you're just going out to do some urban caching or going backwoods backpacking for a week, either way, there's some basic things you can do and plan that are going to make it a little safer. Although I guess going urban Seattle these days is probably more dangerous than anything.
You would think.
So I've heard.
Anyways, not to bring politics into the podcast, so I'll
there are no politics involved.
No.
It's anarchy.
So by definition, there's no politics. Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. All right. So we talked about planning ahead.
So things like knowing where you're going, right?
Yeah.
Plan a travel route. If you're going to go across the mountains, know the terrain and know the conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're going down the street, know the terrain, know the conditions.
And check the weather report before you go.
Yeah. And, if you're going out and it's been a little snowy, a little icy, watch out for those hills, right? So check the weather. Just be conscious of where you're going and what you're doing. I can say that again. Do you want me to?
Sure.
Know what you're doing and where you're going.
I just like the part where you said to be conscious, because it's better than being unconscious.
Yeah. Genuinely makes for a more memorable geocaching experience. At least for you.
Maybe.
If you want to drag Bernie along, it might be,
Weekend caching with Bernie.
That's
Perfect.
right.
Should I share a shot here? I
Sure.
don't know
Go for it, man. What do you got? What are you sharing?
There was my injury.
Oh,
yeah. There you go.
Ouch.
I did post that on the cache page in case you wanted to go see in all your glory, but you don't need to.
No.
Okay. Those of you listening to the audio podcast, you're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some things that you probably just don't need to see. All right.
So we have some contributions from our listening audience, of course, as always. They're awesome. Keats94 says, twigs seem to like my eyes. I had one jammed underneath my eyelid. Had to use tweezers to pull it out.
Oh.
Hopefully it was the twig and not his eye. It's about an inch into my head. Ouch. Ouch.
Wow, that's crazy. You could have almost damaged your eye that way, dude.
Yeah.
Glad that didn't happen.
Wow.
Big time.
And Trexer says the benefits of getting outside and off your couch can be a much healthier life, which is absolutely true.
That's true.
But if you do it recklessly, it can be the opposite. You can end up spending more time on your couch.
Though, I don't think going outside and moving, even if you get injured, is as bad as the negative health connotations if you stay on the couch.
Everything has some inherent risk, right?
That's
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
Keats also says, I have had 6 broken bones in my life, and one of them had me in a wheelchair for a few weeks. All injuries happened before I became a geocacher, so it seems geocaching has made me a safer person.
Is it the geocaching or the fiddle playing that's made you a safer person? That's what we want to know.
Or just, growing up and making wiser decisions.
No, not that.
Or possibly that.
Yeah.
I've grown up, but I haven't made wiser decisions.
You've gotten older. I don't know if you've grown up.
That's too funny. I like Renwood shares geocaching is dangerous to my smartphone. Hashtag use a lanyard. Hashtag Cashly. There you go.
I'm thinking there's more of a story there.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a glow for another day.
There you go, Renwood.
All the glow as it slowly faded away down into the depths. See how I worked that in there? Yeah.
Yes. Do you want to tell that story, Chris?
I did. What?
Isn't that the story about Daryl's GPS?
I think it was somebody's GPS.
I thought it was Daryl's.
Could be. He dropped it off a ferry or next to a dock.
A ferry dock. Yeah, I thought that
Yeah.
was the story.
And, the screen was still on as it slowly floated down to sink on the bottom. And there it was sitting on the bottom. You could still see the faint glow, but there was no way he was going to be able to get to it because, well, he's at a ferry dock and
Yeah.
they frown on swimming right there.
Yeah.
Generally not recommended.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So definitely can be dangerous for your electronics. But yeah, the electronics are also a good way to. Renwood says it's a story for another time. There you
Okay.
go. All right. So we're looking forward to that one.
Well, see, and I like Boomer because he's like me. Since I have lost my great balance, I tend to fall a lot. It's quite funny.
To everyone else.
Yeah. And, it is until you impale yourself on something. Then it's not so funny, but it makes a great story later. Thank you, Boomer.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, there you go. Kindred spirits.
There is
Yeah.
a reason that when you sign into the official app, it has an injury disclaimer. It says GSM times 2. So,
Yeah.
Geo Travelers apparently has a video of him falling.
Perfect. That's what we all need, right? That's how you know you got real friends. If,
well, your good friend GeoNavPros says just need to take land monkeys with you wherever you're caching. And the bonus is one of you finds them too.
there you go.
On the videos I've seen of that, it's always Mrs. Land Monkey.
It seems that way. It certainly seems that way. Keith says that since the twig incident, his eyes are fine, but it did take a good hour to carefully pull the twig out. Ouch. I can semi-relate, not fully because I've never had a twig in my eye like that, but I do find that I don't know what it is about the eyes. Whenever I'm bushwhacking, I'm always getting sticks in the eyes. And it's like, I've got all this other face.
Yeah.
Why do you have to go for the eyes?
You should be wearing safety glasses.
I guess I should.
There you go.
Except then I'd probably trip and have depth perception issues.
But maybe that's my problem. But my eyes are safe. UDAC says, so far I've only had one geocaching minor injury. It was bushwhacking and a sharp twig from a tree or bush punctured my upper arm.
Ooh,
It didn't bleed, but it left a scar.
Ow. Wow. That's a war wound.
that's right.
Yeah.
You can tell stories about that now.
Well, we were, Witsend and I were geocaching this weekend and looking for a cache, and I push in amongst some trees and I go, no, and I look down and I go, oh man, this tree has like inch-long thorns all over it. It's next to two cedars, but it's just nestled in there right where you want to be. Yeah. Thank you very much, nature. Nature
The
wants
cache wasn't there.
Oh, and of
Somewhere.
course, yeah.
Yes.
Uh,
That's always good. But, one of the safety tips when you are out there, people have said in the chat, make sure you bring a companion, don't cache alone kind of things. And one of those things to keep in mind when you're out there is communications. So you need to have good communications, not only with the person you're caching with, little FRS radios work to keep track of each other if you become separate in the trail, even without any kind of cell plan or cell coverage or anything like that. But it's also good to have options to communicate outside of your party to call for help. The cache that Chris and I were talking about, we were pretty much in a metropolis. It was swampy there, but there was good cell coverage. I could have called for help. But sometimes you're out hiking on a remote trail and don't have that option. FRS radios work, but they're limited range. Ham radios are great if you're licensed and bring them along, have more distance to cover. So communications is great. And of course, you should always fill out that trip plan so that somebody other than just you and your hiking companion know where you're planning to go and where you're planning to be.
that sounds like a lot of really good advice. Then you were talking about the FRS radios, and you're a ham radio operator as well. And whenever I think of ham radios, I always just think of like the base stations in the houses with the huge mast antennas. But that's not always the case. Like there's
Not always. Yeah, here's a ham radio right here. It's just, we call it a handy talkie. It's a big walkie-talkie. So, and These
And what's the
are,
range on something like that?
the answer is always it depends. Depends on terrain. It depends on a lot of conditions. But especially if you're hiking up in the mountains, you can go for miles and miles and reach hopefully somebody. And hopefully there are other people around that have radios that maybe they can reach you by radio, and then they have cell coverage, or they have a mobile radio that has more power to reach farther. And obviously it's the tool's only as good as the other people around to connect it to. One radio by itself is no good at all. You need to have another one somewhere else that you can reach. So multiple options are good to bring along. Cell phone, FRS, ham radio.
But
smoke
land linking,
signals.
feel free to take the base unit in the big tower with you.
Yeah.
Just put it in the pack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Solar batteries should be fine.
No, not a problem.
Take a couple of deep cycle boat batteries with me. Yeah, sure.
And it's another reason that you should travel with a companion, preferably a good, strong companion that can carry all those heavy, deep cycle lead acid batteries.
Yeah.
Also known as a pack mule. Okay.
Yeah,
And just make sure that strong companion doesn't need to be carried out because you're going to have to carry them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could happen.
So yes, absolutely. We're talking about communication. So GSM times 2 is mentioning the spot and inReach
Yes.
satellite-based solutions, which is something Mrs. Monkey and I have been talking more and more about. Just hurrying up and buying one. I'm half wondering if I'll get one for my birthday this year, but those things are super awesome. And one of the cool things, I don't know if all of them do it. I know at least one of them does it. They allow you to actually subscribe in and out of the service on a monthly basis without paying extra fees. So if you know that you're just not going to be using it, like you don't go out in the winter, so it's just not going to use it for like 4 months, well, you can save 4 months of the service rates and just pay for it during the period of the year when you know you're going to use it. So
that's right. The Geo Traveler says the inReach unit is better.
There's a few options. In fact, there's even I recently saw another. Okay, there you go. GSM times 2 says both of them allow that now. That's fantastic. I've recently seen a third option. I just can't remember the name of the product off the top of my head, but there's another player in that market. But definitely Spot and inReach are the two that have the market share.
Yeah. By the way, Starcatcher contributed. You should have a big, strong companion that runs slower than you do.
for bears and cougars.
You don't have to outrun the bear. You just have to outrun the other people in your party.
Yeah.
Well, and you want that big, strong companion to be able to fight off the wild animal.
Yeah, of course. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Rory says a personal locator beacon.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and if you're out in the mountains in the winter, oh, there you go. Sorry.
The Garmin 66i is also good.
Okay.
There you go. I was going to say, if you're going to be out in the winter time in the mountains, those personal locator beacons or avalanche beacons are super helpful as well.
Oh, extremely in snow, avalanche conditions.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're all nerds. I'm speaking for the three of us. Bob says, don't leave home without a Spot. You get an inReach when his Spot subscription runs out. But as I say, we're all nerds here, and I do love gadgets. I have to admit it. But I'm going to be the first to say, don't solely rely on the technology. The batteries never run out of a good map and compass.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know where you're going and how to use those tools, don't just throw a map and compass in your bag and go, okay, I'm good, I got it. Take some time to know how to use that stuff.
Yeah,
it's not great if the map is Manhattan and you're in Phoenix. Just saying.
Yeah, should have turned left in Albuquerque.
Yeah, thanks, Bugs.
Well, and one of the things I always tell people when they're going out caching, say on a long hike, and you're using your cell phone to get to as the GPS to find the caches, you may want to consider another option because, as you get farther and farther out of range, it takes a lot of battery of that cell phone trying to communicate with towers. And you could be in trouble and finding yourself not having enough battery life to make a phone call when you absolutely need it. So there you go.
Good tip.
It's very good tips.
Have multiple devices.
There you go. And
don't solely depend on one technology. How's that?
Yeah.
and don't solely depend on one person. Make sure everybody else in your party knows what to do in case of emergency too. You don't have to stop every trip and have a full-fledged first aid training, but maybe just a refresher and some, you know,
I think everybody should,
discussion.
even if you're not going out on trails or anything, like everybody should just have basic first aid training.
Yes.
It's just a life essential, honestly. Like literally, it is a life essential.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know here in the States, the Red Cross puts on CPR and first aid training on a regular basis. Check with your fire department, check with, your city, and you can do it at no cost. And it's just a good thing to have.
Yeah, I know a lot of the communities up here in British Columbia, and the rec centers, community centers, put on the basic first aid training as well. It's totally accessible.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hard to get. GSM times 2 knew what the third option was. It's the
There you go.
Zoleo satellite communicator. Thank you, GSM times 2. I could not remember that name. I don't know why. I mean, it just rolls off the tongue, right?
UDEC's unhappy with you. It's in. Who you calling nerd?
I said the three of us hosts.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
That's who I was calling nerds. Now, if the rest of you want to join in, there's room in the pool for everybody, but I'm only speaking for present company that I can see visually here. And I think that includes the chat lackey as well.
I kind of don't want to bring this one up, but Coon and Bud says a head-on accident was my worst injury.
Ooh.
Broke my arm, passenger broke ribs. Trucker was hydroplaning, his fault. I missed GeoWoodstock in Denver.
Oh,
Wow.
Well, we're glad that you're okay, because that's
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Goodness.
was bad, but it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah,
So we're glad that you're still around to cash on.
indeed. All right, and what else? We got some more.
Yeah, Sprouter.
Sprouter.
Oh,
Yeah.
what's that?
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, UDAC says he would love to host a first aid training event.
Well, there you go.
Now,
Once events are.
I was going to say, is that a geocaching event or are you a first aid trainer?
Ooh, yeah, that would be very cool.
Be good. From the chat, Sprouter says, always watch your step when you're out on a CITO as well, because you don't have to be way out in the backwoods to have an injury.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I mean, depending upon where you're cleaning as well, right? Sometimes you can come across stuff that you need to be really cognizant of where your hands are going.
Exactly. And, when you lift something up, there could be critters living under there that's not happy you just moved their house.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially, well, in the Northwest here, especially once you get into the high desert parts of the states and provinces, there's a lot more bitey things.
And stingy things. Keith says also those dang them there wasps.
Yeah. Well, heck, I mean that the wasps, and I think I saw it mentioned earlier, but it reminds me of when we did the hike to Monte Cristo, the Catching the Northwest hike, and I found the wasps for everybody, and
Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. But then shortly thereafter, one of our party slipped on the wet rocks and broke her finger. So
Yes.
fortunately, there was a doctor in the house, but and it was a nurse who broke her finger.
Yeah.
I do vividly recall the just pull on it and reset it for me conversation. Like, oh man, you are tough.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
I remember saying, yes, you probably can go on. I know this is important, but please don't turn back. I'll walk back with you if I have to.
Yeah.
No, I'll do it. Okay.
Well, yeah, and that stuff happens. But it's good to know what to do when those things happen. Sorry,
There's so much going on in the chat.
I know you guys are amazing. It's just coming in here. Lots of talk about injuries. GSM times 2 is mentioning that he had a twig puncture an artery in his ankle. Oh my goodness. The blood. Oh, this is grisly. The blood pretty much completely soaked my sock, he says.
That's what you wear socks for, right?
I guess.
So
Ouch.
make sure they're waterproof socks for just such an emergency. That'll save your shoes.
There you go.
That's not the purpose.
No, Geo Travelers, speaking of staying upright, commented that her shoelaces tend to get caught on low slash branches, and she's had a few falls that way.
Mm.
I've about a year ago on my hiking shoes, so not my boots, but my hiking shoes, I went with the elastic laces, where you just
Ah.
kind of you pull them up, you draw them up, and you replace your laces with like it's these elastic laces, and they're awesome. I love them.
Oh.
I didn't know if they would really hold up. They've held up for a year, over a year of use now, and all kinds of weather conditions,
Mhm.
and they're fantastic. And so first of all, I'm incredibly lazy, so I don't have to tie those shoes anymore. So that's a bonus. But they don't have the laces don't come undone, which is always one of the things that drives me nuts. Midway through a hike, when your laces come undone, you're like, I gotta tie my laces again. So I don't know. Just throw that out.
Yeah, there's a
Um,
reason my daily wear work boots are pull-ons, the slip-ons, no
There you go.
laces.
I'm just really good at tying double knots.
I do that on my hiking boots, and for some reason, those laces, and it's probably because I wax my boots, so the wax gets on the laces a little bit. It just doesn't hold.
It's a real bummer. That's not the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Sorry, you had, go ahead, read that one.
MC3 Cat says, I fractured my wrist when I slipped and fell backwards on a wet, mossy sidewalk on a hill while getting an FTF. He got the FTF, so it's worth it.
I would debate that, but okay. Glad you think so.
Your mileage may vary.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
June says, earlier in the pandemic, lots of people were refusing to sign logs as they were afraid of catching COVID. Is that still a thing, or have people relaxed now?
I like this question. So talking about geocaching safety. So yeah, there was that. There was also a number of people who had chosen to disable their caches.
Right.
To basically say, I don't want people going after this, because I don't want to put people in a position to be catching COVID from a cache log. I'm not sure, whatever, and that's fine. Everybody's, you're a cache owner, you're entitled to do whatever you want to a certain degree. I was not afraid or refusing to sign logs during the pandemic. I wasn't getting out to do as much geocaching at all as I would have liked to. My stats took a serious nosedive in March and April, but that was more just in general. We weren't getting out anyways, and also work. But I see that thing seems to have abated, at least up here in British Columbia. I don't know what your guys' experience in Washington State has been.
I think people are getting out more. I think I've seen slightly few more fines on my caches. I know Chris and I got out this weekend, and first time in a long time, and actually did some caching, and I didn't really think of it much of an issue. I mean, I don't tend to hold the cache, hold the pen in my teeth or anything like that. I try to still be cognizant of, okay, I've been out and I've touched lots of things. I'm going to try not to, rub my eyes or wipe my nose or whatever. But I don't think it's something to be paranoid about. But obviously, use some caution and common sense.
Yeah, and I think it's more about just not caching with a bunch of other people.
Yeah,
and getting in tight and all that kind of stuff, right? The social distancing aspect.
Yeah, that's still, from what I understand, the biggest way to spread this particular thing is respiration between people. It's, this is not a medical podcast, and I am not a medical professional. Do not take anything I say.
Seriously.
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on a podcast.
That's right. I've done that. But, the studies I've been seeing is that, maybe it's not quite as dangerous on surfaces as they thought it was initially or whatever. But the biggest thing is, breath, coughing, sneezing,
Yeah. Trexer says that he's been looking and hasn't found any research yet on how long COVID survives on lock and locks. There's a really good episode on COVID from the Stuff You Should Know podcast, if anybody listens to that podcast. Now, it's going a couple months back when they did that, and they were very intentionally saying like, we're going to do one podcast on COVID and we're never talking about it again.
Yeah.
But and good for them. But when they did, they actually did talk about the virus and research that had been done on the virus's own lifespan on surfaces such as plastic. So I think that would directly relate to what Trexer's talking about there.
Yeah, and water dilutes it. So in the Northwest, when everything's been rained on, we're good.
Yeah, and all the logs are moldy. You're going to get worse from the log sheet itself.
Yeah, that's true. Reaching into some of those containers, I think I'm going to catch worse than COVID. Maybe I'm making too light of that. I'm sorry. But when Witsend and I went out, we had hand sanitizer in the car that we used. But you could always wear gloves as well, and then carefully remove them, and you should be fine.
Yeah. And you get a new pair of gloves at each cache, according to Bearling.
I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
But you play one on TV.
GSM times 2 is laughing at MC3 Cats. It says FTF is so worth it. A statement only a geocacher.
And only some geocachers understand. Yeah. So Keats94 did also share a hashtag safe, bring those 10 essentials. And let's segue into talking about that briefly. Just a reminder for everybody, our good friends at Adventure Smart recommend that you follow the 3 T's, which is trip plan that Witsend was talking about earlier, training, which we were also talking about, first aid training, but also Witsend mentioned training in the sense of bring a map and compass and learn how to use them.
Right.
And of course, taking the essentials. And, historically, we're always used to talking about the 10 essentials, and Sandra wants us to keep in mind that we don't have to have a specific number. Really bring some core essentials plus whatever the essentials are for the adventure you are on. And it is going to vary depending on what you're doing. But in general, as the reminder for everybody, here's our Adventure Smart plug. You bring a flashlight, something to make fire, a signaling device, a mirror or a whistle, extra food and water, extra clothing, so layers, especially in the Northwest, navigational or communication devices, compass, GPS, first aid, an emergency blanket or shelter, some sort of knife, usually a pocket knife, protection from the sun, hat, sunglasses, sunscreen, and put all those things as well. Put all those things in a personal emergency kit that you keep in your car as well. It's no reason not to have that. But there you go. So there's your essentials as our public service announcement and our reminder to carry those things with you.
Nice. Now, next we have a note in here from our chat lackey. And we won't mention his geocaching name. So, the names have been changed to protect the innocent. Well, he's not even innocent. Anyway, he says he was on the way home from the Tri-Cities last summer. That may tell you something about who he is. After several full days of caching in the semi-arid deserts of Southwest Washington, I stopped at a cache. I was driving and parked right beside it. And because it was on my side of the car, I jumped out to grab it. I started pulling down the grass around the rock with my foot. First side, no cache. Second side, no cache. Third side, no cache. Last side, rattlesnake.
Whoa. Surprise.
Yeah.
I rapidly leaped backwards. We had been checking for snakes for days, but I let my guard down briefly at this cache. It was the only rattlesnake we saw on the trip.
And that's always the case. It's when you let your guard down is when something happens.
Yep. There you go.
So yes, there are rattlesnakes in the Tri-Cities.
And, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's that high desert terrain we were talking about, right? In
exactly.
Sort of central Washington, British Columbia. I think that extends down into Oregon as well, right? Like they've got the same kind of terrain.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's hard to see on there, but there's the photo he shared with.
Oh,
rattlesnake.
that's a big one too.
Yeah. So,
surprise.
Yeah, that's not the kind of surprise I would be looking forward to.
Nope.
Well, the chat lackey's still alive, so it didn't bite him, or he didn't have a heart attack.
Hey, good job.
Well done. And
Yeah, that's that's a real concern. Yes, geocaching can be dangerous.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I also applaud him for, he said he was pulling the grass down around the rock with his foot.
Mm-hmm.
So still better than the bare fingers reaching around underneath there. Use that hiking boot to do that kind of stuff.
Or poke it with a stick.
Yes.
Look it with a stick.
Or
Yeah.
send in
Not
a
even
geo-
going to acknowledge IHAM's comment. We're
send
moving
in
on.
Send in a geocaching companion.
I do have to share that 3 hands in a row's commented that the chat like he had to change his shorts because and he's saying I was there.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So that means the chat lackey had some sort of the 10 essentials with him, a change of clothes.
A
Yeah.
change of clothes, layers. Yeah.
Layers.
Oh, too
Well,
fun.
hey, I was going to throw out, talking about podcasts and celebrity hosts. One of my
Yeah.
favorite podcast hosts and other host is Mike Rowe. You might know him from Dirty Jobs and other things. Great podcast if you want to listen to the way I heard it. But he has a long history of being on, Dirty Jobs and lots of other shows like that where he's been in lots of dangerous situations. And to his own admission and description, he said, my crew and I sat through lots and lots and lots of safety spiels. And after a while, he said, you just stop listening to them because they all start to sound the same. And he said, we adopted a saying of safety third. And people kind of look at you like, cow looking at a new gate going, what is that? What do you mean? And he says the idea behind it is, how often do you sit on an airplane and the stewardess reads the safety spiel or you anywhere and they all say, your safety is our number one priority? He goes, is it? That's really not all that honest, because he says a company's number one priority is to make money. And sure, your safety is important and all, but he says it reminded us that safety third says just because companies put out regulations and put all these things in place doesn't mean that you're necessarily safe. Safety third reminds them that ultimately safety is your responsibility. You're responsible for yourself. It's way more complex than a first priority. Many employees say that, but they actually don't put safety first. So
That's
no
cool.
matter
I like
no
that.
matter what safety rules are out there or policies or barricades, you name it, use your smarts. You're smart people, and look out for yourself and be safe on your own. Yeah, he's got some really brilliant insights and stuff. I'd vote for him for president.
There you go. Didn't know he was running.
He's not, but I can dream.
That's the way he heard it.
That's
That's
the way
right.
he heard it. Perfect. Well, you know what, guys? It's wow, it's been a 50-minute podcast already, so we could probably handle a bunch more of these conversations in the after show.
I've heard of that.
Once again, as always, you guys in the live chat are amazing. You just give us so much more content to talk about than, we already had kind of a full show and we didn't get to half of it because we want to talk about what you guys want to talk about. So in light of that, why don't we start wrapping up the regular show? We can take things into the after show and keep going for a little while. What do you think?
I
I
love
got
it.
some time.
All right.
My commute is pretty easy tonight. So yeah, I can do that.
Fun.
Folks, we are still working on some shows coming up, but in a couple of weeks, we're going to have Limax talk about coordinate systems. Ooh, that sounds like a lot of fun. You want to be there for that.
I'm sure he'll be well coordinated that evening.
No, I probably can't be on that one because I'm not coordinated.
Maybe we should coordinate.
We've
our
already
outfits or
determined that earlier in the show.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, this is the point in the show as well, where we always take a moment to thank Landsharks, our corporate Denali level sponsor. Landsharks is the outdoor adventure and geocaching store. Check them out online or, hey, go in person. Visit their store in Victoria, British Columbia. They are open 5 days a week, except holidays, and they're shipping online orders daily. We also, of course, want to thank all of our faithful Denali level supporters. That's Landsharks, JP's Geo Designs, Limax, Team Squirrel, Groovy Owl, and Cashly. And if you want to know more about supporting the show, click that Patreon link on thecachingnw.com, a website.
just like Logwork did.
And Kev MacD.
And LG 9000.
And the GeoNav Pros.
Fairwood West.
Anteos.
Broncos fan for life.
Tick Magnet.
The Highlands guy.
The Geo Travelers.
Subway Mark.
Tessayer.
GSM ×2.
Wet Coaster. And Greenwords.
Seabeck Tribe.
Wino Seattle.
Twig in his eye. Keats 94.
Kennel Barb.
Segehov.
Genies.
Kid Vegas 19.
CRS 98.
Dune Buddy.
Sprouter.
Ackerdoc.
MC3 Cats.
Alarobrick.
B. Pendragon.
Trexer 0.
Team Noltex.
Dora Moore.
Camp Clan.
Kitty Quest.
Boomer 365.
On a Boat.
Billy Robson.
M Nerve.
And Cashley, our newest one. Thanks to all of them. You guys rock.
Yeah.
That's right. Hey, folks, if you want to follow any of us and see if we say anything interesting online, probably not, but you could go check us out. Best spot to go is to cachingandw.com/host. There you're going to find all the links, the bios, the stuff that we don't really want you to know about, but we put it online to see if anybody will go there anyway. And most of all, thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Don't forget that you can be part of the show. You can call into 253-693-TFTC and leave us a comment, ask us a question, or suggest a TV series we should quarantine stream any time of the day or night. Of course, you can email us at feedback@cachingandw.com. Your support helps keep the quality shows coming. If you like the show, click the Patreon link on the cachingandw.com website and subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and more. Give us a thumbs up or a review. This show is produced by Chris Umfenauer, Jim Paulwitz, and Jay Kennedy. It's licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license, copy 2020 by Chris Umfenauer. And folks, I ask you to stay tuned for
The After Show.
The After Show.
Ooh, there's a banner and everything. It must be official.
Ooh.
Maybe. There it goes. No longer official.
There you go.
Oh, hush.
that's too funny. Kitty Quest enjoying the mocking of her name every week. It's mocking in love.
That's right. It's funny how these things happen. Guys, you have put in so much into the chat tonight. It's absolutely incredible. I want to go up and find it. I don't know if I can now. Some Neltra
Okay.
has I want to say a 914-day streak going.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
It's something I saw, but I didn't have it ready.
It's got to be back up here somewhere. Oh, I got, good memory. 914. She says, I'm very lucky where I live.
Wow.
Yes, indeed. What else you got? There's tons of stuff.
Keith 94 says my favorite parts of the credit is when Kitty Quest's name gets whispered. It's now a trademark.
Too funny. Yeah, it's lots of fun.
Kitty Quest and Boomer should always be announced together.
It does pair off nicely, doesn't it? It's good. Nice contrast.
There's balance that way.
Yeah, there's balance to the universe. That's too funny.
I don't know why, but we should have at least 16 thumbs up before the end of the podcast.
I'm guessing there may be 16 people in the chat.
Ah,
The live stream is my guess.
there you go. Awesome. Well, I mean, we've got well over 30 viewers tonight, so yeah, that would be fantastic. Yeah, if you're enjoying this show, please just whatever viewer you're watching it on, whether it's YouTube or Facebook, just give it a little. We appreciate that.
Is that the sound
Thumbs
thumbs
up.
up makes?
BC Rockcrawler says my SAR training says always carry two sources of light.
That's really, really good advice.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So maybe we can keep it with the 3 T's, but we have the 12 or 13 essentials
Yes.
or the 22.
Something like that.
We made 16.
Ah, fantastic.
I can't even look at that.
What's
Yeah, there you go. Keith says gloves can go a long way when signing and holding caches. Hand sanitizer too.
There you go.
I think we got some more folks talking about caching streaks in here. Trexer says he was happy with hitting day 530 today. That's quite a lot.
Oops, sorry, I clicked on that accidentally.
That's okay. So day 530 for Trexer. Congratulations. That is a very long stretch. And
Boomer says just 135 to go.
There you go.
I don't know of what.
there you go.
Keith's got an FTF in Port Moody today.
Nice. Congratulations.
That unfound and unattempted for 4 days in a city. That's rare.
That is really rare in Port Moody. There's quite a few cachers within a very short run of Port Moody up here in that's the British Columbia Tri-Cities area, actually.
Okay.
It's Port Moody, Port Coquitlam, and Coquitlam.
It's easy for you to say.
Yeah, well, it's easier than saying your 4 Tri-Cities.
Oh, well, that's true. How embarrassing.
Yeah, they've changed a lot.
What else?
Not since I was there. Not in my head.
So we've got a bunch of stuff here from Wet Coaster. Do you want to?
Yeah, he sent us an email this week referencing last week's show when we were talking about your first caches and other things. So Wet Coaster created his account in 2007, yet his first find was in 2012. The name of that cache is TARDIS, which has been archived. So perhaps he created the account in 2007, got in the TARDIS, out in 2012, and signed the log.
Maybe.
Could happen.
It could.
We also talked about getting stuck with large trackables.
Yeah.
He says events are great for moving trackables and getting them discovered. Some trackables, like the Ontario license plate I picked up an event, can really only be moved at events.
Indeed. And I'm partly responsible for that license plate trackable. Myself and GeoTravelers. GeoTravelers handed it off to me, and I handed it off to Wet Coaster, who was generous enough to take it back to Ontario. So,
wow.
Well,
do you remember about having the head in a bag?
Yes, that was Dora Moore, right?
Yeah. But according to Wet Coaster, you should only take a head through airport if you have 8 heads in a bag.
Yes.
Jeez.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
I didn't get the reference.
Joe Pesci.
Oh yeah, I was trying to bring that up. Mentally, I was trying to bring that up when we mentioned it, and we got sidetracked in the podcast and didn't have time. So,
Nice.
yeah, it was a fun B movie. I mean, it wasn't necessarily a blockbuster, but yeah.
What? Yeah.
Good old Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
8 heads in a duffel bag.
Yep.
If you're going out with Joe Pesci, avoid the drive-through. He doesn't like the drive-through.
Okay.
Let's see. His first mega was Discover L&A County geocaching event in 2017.
Very cool.
Yeah, so now Wet Coaster recently, in about the last month, Green Words and Wet Coaster now have separate Patreon accounts.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, double thank you.
Wow, fantastic.
Thank you separately. Thank you.
Thank you.
So when we go through the credits, should we be not mentioning them together anymore?
Well, I was thinking I'm going to ask them if they want their names separated.
We could randomize that up.
Yeah. And maybe they won't be together.
We could.
Well, they'll be together, but our
Not
reading them
together.
may not be. Yeah.
There you go.
And he wants to know, and this is a good question to toss out to all those who still are listening for some strange reason. Are we going to have an Android only show sometime?
Well, we'd have to kick Chris off the podcast that night.
Yeah, that can happen.
Android only show. That's funny.
Oh, you mean phones? I were thinking robots.
Yes. Data.
Sure.
Uh,
I'm not very funny sometimes. So if you guys are interested in Android only, we can talk about some of the geocaching
Yeah, we can talk
apps
about
and tools for the Android.
CGO and stuff.
Don't give them away now. They won't come back for the show.
yeah, that's a good idea, though. I mean, we can make a note to reach out to
Nick from Cashly.
bring him onto the show. And Nick, the only thing we want to talk about is your Android development. And
No,
then
what apps
Nick
does
will
he?
cross his arms, and we'll just sit there quietly for 30 minutes.
If you need a quiet 30 minutes, we'll have a show for you.
Just ask
We
Nick
can
if
have
he's
some
going to
fun.
develop something for Android. Poor Nick. He's such a good sport.
If we put out a podcast of silence for 30 minutes, would anybody listen to it?
You never know. Hey, I recently put out a 30-minute video of a campfire with the noise of the woods and everything. And there's a few people who are putting it out. I put it out just because, in wintertime, you've got the Yule log, right? And
Mhm.
people like to put that on the TV in the background. And there's a lot of people who just can't quite get out camping yet this year. So I thought, you know what? I had the opportunity to record a campfire, and I thought this would be kind of a neat thing to share with people. So if you can't get out, then put a campfire on, listen to the woods for a while. And yeah, so there you go. So if you're missing campfires and hanging out in the woods, and the only thing it won't do is it won't make your clothes smell like a campfire, and you can't cook s'mores on your TV unless you got an old tube set.
Yeah, but your eyes
Or
don't water
something's
either.
wrong with your TV.
Or something's really,
Yeah.
really wrong with your TV. But go over to my Land Monkey YouTube channel, and there you go. You can watch a campfire for a while.
UDAC enjoyed it.
Thank you, UDAC. There you go.
Nice. UDAC also thinks those oversized trackables need to go.
Go where?
No, I think they need to go to him, is what they're saying, what he's
Her.
saying. So
Her.
So we need to make sure all the trackables go to UDAC. All the large trackables.
There you go.
And that's the last we've heard of UDAC. Let's see. Terrible Tease. Well, hello this evening. He signed up in 2001, but his first catch was 2003.
Wow, that's a long stretch, eh?
Boomer 365 has 5 of those 365-day streaks.
Wow.
Holy.
But they're all, at the same time. You find 5 caches a day for a year, right?
Yeah.
That works if you find 5 different cache types every day, because then you can say, well, I had
Ooh.
a traditional streak and a multi-cache streak. No,
Wow.
that would be hard.
Trexer says the toilet seat trackable I foolishly picked up was a challenge to find a spot for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, it's hard to like Wet Coaster said, basically your best option is going to be an event. It's hard to find caches that are big enough to put some of these unusual trackables in, for sure.
Or in the hood of somebody's car at the head of a geotrail.
Some of these things just happen.
It's been done, I hear.
Theoretically.
Greenword says we will be as of next Friday. He's coming home.
Oh, excellent.
They're getting-
They'll
They
be
get
together.
together, yeah. So
Fantastic.
that'll be nice.
All right.
GSM times 2 says we can get Ron from GeoGo to talk about his advanced geocaching app for Android.
Yeah, I was actually just making some notes because so here's a little look behind the curtain for our listeners. Almost every week you guys come up with great ideas for future podcasts, and we say, what a great idea. Yeah, let's do that. And we don't write it down. So what
Because
happens?
we expect the chat likey to do it for us.
Yeah, but no, he's too important to write these things down for you guys. So just
Whatever.
keep that in mind. Anyways, yeah. So tonight I have been writing down on a piece of paper the different ideas that are coming in, so that we can make sure we can get into a habit of capturing these, because we just can't trust the chat lackey to do it anymore.
You remember how to write with a pen?
I do.
Wow. I thought
That's
since you
it
had a
legible?
stamp and all that you never signed anything.
Ouch. It's funny because I won't get upstairs till about 11 o'clock, and then I'm tired, and it's just one of those things that like, oh yeah, they said something. What did they say? I don't remember now.
What's up?
I don't know. I'm looking for anything to read here.
Well, there's tons to read. It's been an active chat tonight. You're
Camp plan, watch the campfire. No s'mores.
Okay.
There you go.
That's the diet campfire that way.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
like it when his clothes smell like campfire.
I do as well. It just reminds me of being a kid. I love it.
Plasma screen gets pretty hot.
It is
is
not hot enough to make s'mores.
If you're plasma conduits, that's
That's different.
yeah.
Oh, here's a good one. I'd like to hear a show comparing, contrasting the current Android app options, but also like to hear a good one, a developer deep dive into the specifics of one app.
Yes. Thank you, Kitty Quest. I made a note of that earlier.
Oh, well, I didn't need to read that then.
That's okay.
No, I did.
It's good to read it as well.
Yeah.
Trexer says, this is why this podcast has been going on so long. It took 359 episodes, but finally we've started taking notes. This may be
you
the
gotta
last
start somewhere.
episode. Who knows?
Yeah.
We've jumped the shark.
Let's go see here. I'll share this. This was
I like this.
what's that?
Cat
Yeah,
slap.
I saw that.
Oh, no, I don't like that at all. That was rude.
Here, this was in my own backyard not too long ago. So
Oh, nice, man. Looks good.
I can feel the heat from here.
Little
Can you? Yeah.
campfire GIF going on there.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Land sharks are watching tonight. Hopefully they're baking something good. They say we're looking forward to finally getting to do some much needed cache maintenance this weekend. Yes. I've got a couple of my caches that are in need of maintenance. I'm not going to get to them this coming weekend, but in the next few weeks, I'm hoping to get out and put some love on the geocaches.
Yeah, I've adopted a cache and I need to go out and put some love into it.
All right. Keats gave another idea for a future show. He says a tutorial on putting out a quality adventure lab. We did do a couple adventure lab shows a while back. Maybe we can see if Kev MacD wants to come back and talk about that again. But that's a great topic.
Mm-hmm. There's no baking in the ham house this evening. Cookies are all the no bake variety. It should probably be the monkey cake's house because she does all the baking.
Indeed.
there you go. Yeah. I had a friend that made some great no-bake cookies. They made them every year around the holidays, and we always looked forward to them, and they were fantastic, except they weren't very attractive. You might get an idea when their nickname for said cookies was diarrhea drops.
Oh, jeez. That's
They
rough.
liked them enough to name them.
But they tasted good.
Oh, too funny. All right.
Well, next time we go caching, you don't have to bring snacks.
Off the
Maybe
hook.
you should.
you get a hold of yourself.
Off the hook and off the rails.
Yes. And speaking of off the rails, what do you think, guys? Wrap it up.
Oh, we have been off the rails since about 9 minutes into the podcast.
Yeah,
Yes,
GSM
and that's how the show came to an end.
That's right.
Folks, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Be safe, and until next week, get out and get caching in the Northwest.